Hello YouTube, this is Dark. This is going to be part 4 of our D2Etal Resurrected download, install, and configure video set. In this video we're going to be talking about the character configuration. This video is going to be far longer than the other ones. This is by far the most important part. It's going to be how the bot acts, how it manages its inventory, which skills it uses, how it interacts with other players, etc., etc., etc. So just as a reminder, we already created our character configuration. So all we need to do is open it and then edit it with our favorite text editor. So go to your tool folder, scripts, ntbot, care configs, and I'm going to open two files here. I'm going to open the skills.txt, and I'm also going to open the character configuration file for the character we opened earlier. And the reason I'm going to do this is because we're going to need to fill out our skills at some point. So it's good to have open. And we're also going to need to configure our character. So the first thing we're going to look at in our character configuration is, in this case, line 14. Yours may change, but what you're looking for is ntconfig underscore script.push with config check.ntj in quotations. If you do not comment this out by putting two forward slashes in, your bot will not run and will just error out. So make sure you get those in, and that's what's known as commenting out, and then it will not listen to that and we can continue on. We have a lot of options here. Now, I'm not going to go through every single piece of the character configuration because I don't think it's really necessary for a basic cursory overview of getting this started. Most people are going to want to know, how do I get a sorceress or a paladin to go through and do Andy, Mephisto, Diablo, and Bale? That's typically what most people want. So I'm going to skip through this. I will go back through later and go through each of these sections and explain exactly what it is that they do. However, like I said, we're just going to skip through these for now and just get to the basics of how these work. So if we scroll down until we find boss configuration, we can see it says Act 1 scripts. It's nicely broken up for us. We're going to come down to catacombs, which in my particular case is line 139. We're going to remove the comments. And this is for Andariel. So you can change it from, if you put a 0 on line 140 right here, you could change it from Andy only, clear all, clear while skipping regular monsters. Clear while skipping regular monsters is pretty nice because what it will do is it will kill all the champs and elites as it goes to Andariel. You have a higher than average chance of finding better items doing that. The clear all, I guess, would be useful if you wanted just more experience, although I don't really think that that would be that efficient overall. So I'm going to change that to a 2. It will also keep your character in game a little bit longer, so do keep that in mind. Position Andy for the next line. Right wall, left wall, very close, Andy dodge. So basically you have a choice of where you want to attack Andariel from, or if you just want to try to dodge. If your character is fairly weak, I would suggest using number 4 there, especially as a sorceress, in order to keep her, moving around so that she doesn't get hit. That would be my recommendation. We're going to skip through Act 2 for now, although I will mention that if you want to do Ancient Tunnels, obviously that's in here. You can do that if you're like a Blizzard sorceress, or if you want to do Duriel, you could obviously do that as well on 180. But like I said, we're going to kind of skip through this as quick as we can. We're going to do the obvious ones. We have Durance of Hate, Clear Durance. You have Don't Clear, Clear All, Clear While Skipping, same thing as it was for the Catacombs. For this particular instance, I'm going to say Don't Clear, and the reason is that Durance of Hate can be pretty nasty for a sorceress or really anybody. There can be dolls. You also have the council members to deal with once you get to level 3. I would suggest not fighting them if you have a fairly weak character. Next line on 219 says set to true to kill council. It's kind of what I was talking about. Obviously, we don't want that. However, what we do want is to kill Mephisto. So we're going to change that to true. Moat trick is kind of nice. So depending on which skills you're using, you can actually trick Mephisto into a spot where he can't hit you, but you can hit him. So if you enable this here, you can do that. And the reason why there's true and false here is you have untimed and timed skills. So what you can do is you can say enable to do the moat trick, and then the second one is going to be to also enable your untimed skill to attack Mephisto as well. So we're going to change both of those to true in this case. And then underneath that on line 222, we have set to true to use the red portal. I would highly recommend you do this as it's just faster to take that route. Even when I'm like manually magic finding, I do that. So I think it's still useful to leave that as true as well. Act 4, Diablo, something most people are going to want to do. We have the dodge setting. So dodge just means that your character will teleport around and try to dodge enemies. If you are a hammer paladin, you probably don't want that if it is even available in the paladin script. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't think it is. But either way, even if it is, I would say don't turn that on. For a sorceress, would I say turn it on? Yes, I would. Fast chaos is basically you're just going to do the seal area and the bosses around the seal area. You're going to clear that. Even faster chaos means you're only going to kill the seal bosses and then go to the next one. And then below that, you have the option to either start at the entrance. If you put true, you'll start at the entrance. If you put false, you'll start at the star. And then leech support is basically if you have more characters with you, if you're playing with multiple characters in the same game, or even like public game, I suppose. But I'm pretty sure that like the way that it works is it's going to be for the same uh, Atoll bots. I don't think it would actually help like public people. I'll have to test this again. It's been too many years, but pretty sure it's just within Atoll itself. And what this would do is it would support your leechers from dying. So as they're moving forward, if it detects that they're being attacked and losing health or they die or whatever, it's going to back up and try to help kill those enemies and then move forward after that. In this case, I'm only running one character. I'm only running the sorceress, so I'm not going to run that. And then Act 5, again, you can do Shenk, you can do Nilithak. Obviously, you could do what's that other guy's name? Pindleskin as well. So you have all those, options there. I'm not going to do any of those. Of course, what we will do is we will do Bale. Clear World Stone Keep, again, same thing as the other ones that we looked at. Bale Run Only, Clear Path, Clear All. We also have make World Stone Keep third floor TP. So basically, if you turn this to true, it will make a town portal, and then either your leechers or if it's a public game, it gives them a chance to come in and help you, or they can just sit there, I guess. But basically, it just makes it so they could come and help you. You can check for soul killers if the dolls are found. That's what the Stygian dolls are called. If it does find those, then you will leave the game. You'll just basically leave right after that. Make hot TP. What that basically means is when you get to the throne area, it will make a town portal before you kill all the enemies in there. If you don't want to do that and you want to wait till it's safe to invite everybody in, you can set it to false. I think it's probably a good idea to set this to true. It is true by default, so I think that's pretty good. Pre-wave teleport before the wave to keep the mercenary close. I actually kind of like this to be true because it does help keep the enemies like off of you. Sometimes the mercenary will like wander off in the opposite direction and leave you to take, the damage to your face. Wave 2 poison check. So what you can do here is if you turn this to true, you will heal after wave 2. Basically, you'll go to town and heal and come back. That's going to be way slower, and it may actually end up costing you quite a bit of experience if you're running public runs. So I'm not certain that would be worth doing. Wave 3, do you want to move? And what this is they hydras will continue to shoot at you for a few seconds after you kill the council members on wave 3. So it is kind of a good idea to choose either left or right side to hide away from those firebolts. I would actually suggest doing that. Town before bail, you could check your inventory and go to town and free up all your space so that you can get more items when you do bail. And then last but not least, we have kill bail, and it's set to true, obviously. We also have public bail settings. Um, I would actually probably set this to false. This is a good way to get yourself muted or lose chat privileges. So I'd probably just turn this off. You can leave it on, but I don't think it's a good idea to do this. I would turn that off. And then let's see, what else do I want to show you guys? Okay, speed settings. This is a important part for sure. Speed settings, we have max game time. So this is the maximum amount of in-game time your character will have. You can set it to 0 to be infinite, or you can leave it the default, which is 1200 seconds. So that would be 1200 divided by 60 seconds, and that would be the number of minutes. Everything is done in seconds, though. Minimum game time, I like to leave mine in at about 5 minutes if I'm running just one character. I think it's fairly safe to run like 5 to 7 minutes, even if you're running multiple characters now. But keep in mind there's a higher chance you could get a realm down. Start delay time in milliseconds to wait to start. So basically, like when your bot loads in, it'll wait just a tiny amount before it starts moving. And then you also have that for the different areas, and then also for like your in between your like pickets. So a lot of this stuff you don't really need to change, to be honest with you. Um, you may want to change snag delay to something lower because you really don't want to have somebody, grabbing your stuff from you. So I'm going to change mine a little bit lower. You could do the same if you're in a public run, especially. If you're running private runs, it's really not going to make any difference because it's not like you're competing for items. And then chicken and inventory settings are also very important. So we're just going to keep going. Chicken settings. Skip heal life if you're above 90%, and skip heal mana if you're above 70%. We also have that for rejuvenation potions and mana potions. What this is telling you is when are you going to use your health potions? When are you going to use your rejuvenation potions? And when are you going to use your mana potions? That's basically all it's telling. And then you can change it to your desired percentage of when you'll use them. We also have chicken. So what this is it will leave the game if you get below this percentage of health, and then it will just basically restart. So you have two options for this. You have either close Diablo 2 completely or exit the game. And as you can see, closing D2 is safer. It's because it causes crashes sometimes if you just try to exit. So keep that in mind. You could try it both ways. I've actually had it work pretty well using a 1 here, but just, keep that in mind. TP chicken, so you can actually set this to go to town if you go below a certain amount of health to go and heal at one of the healers. You can also do this for your mercenary. And then you can also set up your mercenary to be healed and rejuvenation potions used at their thresholds here. And then, of course, we also have chicken for your mercenary. Not too many people are going to use this to leave the game. If your mercenary dies, it just costs gold. So it's not really a good reason to actually have this set, in my opinion. But hey, if you're one of those people that don't want your mercenary to die, there you go. It does save you quite a bit of gold, I guess. And then we also have inventory settings. Again, this is going to be very important. The first two settings we have is free space before boss and free space. So this is the number of columns that need to be free before killing the bosses. If you don't have that, it will go to town and make room for that. And then basically the second one is pretty much the same thing. Number of free columns. If the bot has less than this amount after identifying, it will go to the stash and stash those items. Now this part is, you really, really want to make sure you get this correct. View this part as your inventory in game. So in game, you have 40 slots of your main inventory, not your stash, but your main inventory. Wherever you have things that you don't want the bot to access, such as Annihilus, you have Hellfire torches, you have skill charms, you have small charms, whatever it is, even your Tome of Town portals and everything, you want to put a 0. Anywhere else where you would like the bot to manage those slots, aka pick up the great items you're going to find and stash them, you need to put a 1. So in my case, I believe I only have 2 rows. So in my case, I'm going to do this. Or columns, rather, not rows. And what this will do is it gives the bot plenty of room to access. But just go in and check this and make absolutely sure, because the bot will toss those other items if they're not in your picket list. So your picket list is the items that your bot will keep. And if you don't have those items in your picket list, it will toss them or sell them or whatever. So you really, really want to make sure that this is correct. So go in, take a screenshot or whatever you need to do, and then come back and fix that with this later. Int config min gold to stash. So basically, how much gold are you going to carry on your character before you go and put it into the stash? Belt settings. We have belt column 1, 2, 3, and 4. They call it 0, 1, 2, and 3. This is basically going to be vertically number 1, 2, 3, and 4 for your potions. You can change this from health potion, mana potion, and rejuvenation potion to whatever it is that you have there. Picket lists are pretty important. I am going to say this. You could spend hours talking about picket lists and how they work. A lot of this is going to be very similar to how Cobalt works. Basically, your picket list is the items that you're going to keep. All of these are set by default to keep all of these items. You can go in and manually edit these particular picket lists, which again, I'll get to later. I'll tell you how. For now, I would suggest just maybe leaving it the way it is and then edit it and change these things as you go, or create your own picket list with your own items that you want, your own custom picket list, basically. So, like I said, we'll go over that later. For now, I kind of want to just stick to the basic configuration so that we can get through this. Cubing configuration is fairly obvious. If you want to upgrade your gems, you can. If you want to, it's got a ton of different things. Basically, you can cube small charms, grand charms. You could do your blood, um, boots and rings and amulets and all that stuff. Obviously, your crafting is all here. What's really nice is all you have to do is just delete one of these sets of slashes, forward slashes, and it will start to do that, which is really great. So say you want to get like a caster belt with like a ton of mana on it. All you got to do is this. And then obviously you would also need to check your picket list to make sure that it has parameters where it will keep the items that it find, basically good enough items where you want to keep them. So the picket list and this are both tied together essentially. We also have essences. You can cube essences into tokens. You also have cubing runes, so you can upgrade runes if you want to. You can socket armors. You can upgrade your uniques. Lots of really neat stuff there. It should be fairly obvious. Like, you're just going to remove these, like I said, to do that. And then it will do that. So, gambling is another thing you may want to do. I personally wouldn't necessarily recommend gambling until probably about level 92, 93 would be best. That would be probably like the best place to start gambling. Anything above that is perfect. And then basically you can tell it how much gold it should start to gamble with, how much gold it should stop gambling so that you have enough, to buy your potions and everything. And then you also have some um, settings for like different amulets and like what type of gambling you want to do. General configuration, you have the public mode on 637. If you want your bot to um, party with other people and use town portals and help them out, you need to turn this to true. Uh, if you don't, they will not send town portals and they will not party with other players or even other bots. We also have quite a few other settings here. Again, guys, I'm not necessarily going to go through everything. I'm just going to touch on the ones that I think are important. So we're going to go down to fast picket. I do like to use fast picket. I do like to use a merc. So if you want to use your mercenary and revive the mercenary, you need to change that to true on 643. Reset Enigma is also a really good one to have. For some reason, Enigma gets glitched out occasionally, so it is a good idea to turn this to true. Quit on ping, that shouldn't be a problem. Prioritize weaker foes should be obvious, and then you have to list the foes you want to be prioritized, but again, not a big deal. We're going to kind of skip some of this, like I said. I'm just trying to make sure we don't miss anything important. Okay. So you can log items basically into a log file so that you can see which items are being kept and which items are being sold. And if you want to do that, you can use the log file for that. So it will basically go in there and log all those different items that are being sold and bought and found. And then you have the different qualities of those. So if you wanted to only see, rares or higher, basically rares, uniques, and crafted, you can do that, etc., etc., etc. Manager log options is generally more the speed that people like to be. People generally don't want to open a log file and go through it. It's a lot easier to see the log in the actual manager. The only issue with that is when you close the manager, it's gone. So, but for most people, this is what they like to see. So, same thing here. Log sold item quality. So basically, you're going to say greater than or equal to. So if you put a 3 here, it will log all items that are white, magic, set, rare, unique, crafted. It will log all of those. But if you go higher, it will start at the one that you put it at and not log ones that are lower than that. So yeah, there you go. You also have Cube Process Manager, which is also going to log the ingredients that you need to cube items. Generally, I would think that this wouldn't be as important to most people, so this might be something you could probably skip. Not really a big deal for most people. Immunity skipping. Now, this is probably pretty important. Depending on your character, I would suggest setting this up. All you need to do is change each one of these to true for your particular character. So my character is using fire and cold. So when they're one or the other, that's not too big of a deal. However, if they are both fire and cold immune, I'm trying to find that. Here we go. Here it is. We want to skip them. And the reason for that is because we can't kill them. Now, technically, if you had a mercenary, there's a possibility that you could kill them. However, in my case, I think it's actually useful to just skip them altogether entirely. ID options and other town configuration. Do you want to identify in the field or do you want to identify a cane? You can even make a message for people like when you're dropping stuff, you can actually tell people in the game that you're dropping things. We also have int config repair on line 744. This is actually when you want to repair. So by default, it is set to 60%. So 60% of durability is when we'll repair. This can get pretty expensive if you go too low, or it can be too time consuming if you set it too high. You can use cane to identify, and if you always use cane to identify, set that to true. And then you can also drop items near cane after you identify them if they're not in your picket. DPS meter, it's not really that necessary. Chests, I'm going to go ahead and skip. Shrines, same thing. Okay, attack configuration. Here we go. This part is another extremely important part that needs to be done. You cannot run the bot with -1s in the primary sections. The primary sections are the only sections that need to be filled out. So for your primary skill to super uniques and champions, you're going to need to select a skill. In my case, I have a sorceress. So here are the sorceress skills. I do use Frozen Orb and Fireball. So Frozen Orb is 64 and Fireball is 47. So we're going to do 64 for Frozen Orb because that is a timed skill. And then our untimed skill is Fireball. So we're going to place that in untimed. Again, same thing with primary skill to others. The first set is for bosses, super uniques, and champions. Or excuse me, super uniques and champions, not bosses. This one is for any other monsters that might be around that are not super unique or champions. And then if you come down here, we also have the same situation. We have primary skill to bosses, Diablo, Meph, Duriel, and Andy. And then, oops, I put 47, but I want 64 there. And then primary skills set to Bale. Oh, okay. So the last one is Bale only. Otherwise, you could just use the primary skill there. So you could just put the same thing there. But yeah, just make sure you fill out the primary skills. First skill is not really something that you need to have unless you're somebody like they give the example of slow missiles. Um, if you had like a curse wand or something like that, you could obviously do that as well. Let's see. Chain lightning on lightning immunes. You can set that to true if you want. Enchant self, dancing sword. I actually like to use this because it helps you stay alive if you have a weaker sorceress. And you can configure how far away it's going to jump, how many attacks you will use before teleporting. So I'm going to change this to like maybe, let's change this to like 2. It's going to be kind of annoying because it's going to teleport around a lot. So maybe let's do 3. And then you have the range, and you also have when they will start to dance. So once I go below 78% health, that's when she'll start doing that, but not before. Skill to spam before Diablo spawns. You could do that for like say Blizzard or something like that. That would be helpful for that. What else do we have? Pre-wave spot, not that important. Yeah, none of this stuff is really that important. And last but not least, at least for Sorceress, because that's the example that I'm using here, class specific settings. So obviously each one of these is going to be different. In T-config, cast static. So you can cast static field until their hit point is less than this percent. So if you do that, you will do this till 60%. And then here you have the option to use it on bosses only, but you could also use it on other monsters as well. As far as I'm concerned, this is fine the way it is. You probably don't need to change this, but if you want to, you could do it to Pindle, you can do it to Thresh Socket. And then obviously by default, it does it to Duriel, Bale, Diablo, Mephisto, and Dario. All right, guys, so that pretty much concludes just a basic overview of the character config and the settings that you probably want to look at. Feel free to mess around with the settings if you have questions, comments, or concerns. Feel free to post them in the comments below. I do try to answer as much as I can on your guys' comments and hopefully help you out and get you up and running. But this video is quite long, so I'm going to probably end it here. We're going to move on to the next part. I'll see you there. P.S. Make sure you save your character configuration file before you leave it. Very important. I left that out, but if you don't save it, it didn't happen. So forgot to say that in the original recording. I'll make sure I add this in now. So